Welcome to a Wednesday edition of Overtime here on WOTM. I am Gerhard Mathangani, joined by our expert historian and researcher Mark Everett Kelly, back once again. He was here with us on Monday. John was with us here yesterday. He's back with us here again today. Lots to talk about in the world of sports, both here on the statewide level, also as we go across the United States. A big story going on over in Oakland, California, as one of the Major League Baseball teams could be relocating. We'll also have our Who's Better segment once again. We'll talk Alabama quarterbacks this time around. We will also talk high school baseball and softball. The state championships can be seen right here on WOTM. We'll give you the details in just a little bit. But first, we will start with the NFL. The schedule release is today, and the NFL knows how to do this. They know how to build up a whole lot of hype for all their things, whether it's the NFL draft, this 2-week run to the Super Bowl, the playoffs, and now today is the NFL schedule release. Mark, today we found out the first game of the NFL season will be played on September the 9th, and it will be the defending Super Bowl champion, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I should say, against the Dallas Cowboys. It is Dak Prescott against Tom Brady. Obviously, a really interesting storyline between these two. Let's see some video of Tom Brady winning the Super Bowl and Dak Prescott coming back to the field after that horrific injury last year. Number one, your overall thoughts on the schedule release and the game number one on the NFL slate.
Well, look, I think that Dallas last year, their defense was awful starting off, but the one thing you kept watching the game for was because of how Dak played. And I remember the game against Atlanta, he brought them back from the dead.
Right.
And he was having a historic season, might have passed for the most passing yards ever in a season. He was certainly on pace to do that. So seeing him come back kind of puts with all those other quarterbacks. I remember when Marino got hurt with his Achilles, and he came back the next year. That first game against Drew Bledsoe down in Miami was an absolute classic. So setting up the stage for that with the defending Super Bowl champions, you got Tom Brady, and then you have Dak Prescott and America's team, which, let's face it, the Cowboys are still probably the team most people like to watch, whether you love or whether you hate them. But I think the real interesting thing here is Brady gets to go against the Cowboys, who he's done historically very well against, as we're going to see in a bit. But also, if the Cowboys want to do anything next year, and people always imagine the Cowboys being better than they are, I don't think there's a Cowboy fan who thinks, oh, well, I don't know if they're going to be good this year. So you get to find out early. If they can be the defending champions on the road, and if Prescott looks healthy, that's going to be a great sign for the Cowboys.
No doubt about it. And, of course, you have Tom Brady going against the Buccaneers or against the Cowboys. All the other games against the Cowboys have been when he was in a New England Patriot uniform. Let's take a look at his career against the Cowboys. A 5-0 record overall. This is a team, as you mentioned, this is it's America's franchise, and also it is still, at this point, the most highly valued franchise in the NFL. Tom Brady, great career, obviously, against the Dallas Cowboys, and this game will be at home. They'll raise the banner. It should be a great night there in Tampa, Florida. But I think it's really interesting because you have a Dallas defense that was really shaky last year. They addressed some of that in the draft. They obviously sealed up their quarterback, signing Dak Prescott to a $1 zillion contract. And now you have a team that Cowboys want to take that next step up, and you mentioned they could do so in a really poignant way against the defending champions.
I mean, Brady being undefeated against you isn't really rare. I mean, Brady does that against a lot of teams. Only 5 games against the Cowboys, being in the NFC East and playing in the AFC East. The Patriots were always the best team in the conference, and the Cowboys, they haven't won a Super Bowl, people forget, since Super Bowl 30, when they beat the Steelers thanks to Neil O'Donnell basically throwing 2 passes to Larry Brown. So it's been a while since the Cowboys have dominated the NFL, even though you listen to Cowboy fans and you think they do it every year. You know, they did have the year in 2007 where they finished with the best record in the conference, but lost to the Giants in the divisional round. And really since then, they've been good, but not great. You had the year where they lost to Green Bay and that great game Aaron Rodgers led them to in Prescott's rookie year. So much is expected out of Cowboys every year, but they always wind up being disappointed. Prescott got his big contract. You know that he's the main player in town. Him coming out and being able to beat Brady on opening night when everybody's watching, that'll really put the Cowboys on a high. And if they win there, maybe they can carry that. In an NFC East, that's probably going to be theirs for the taking.
Right. There was a great tweet that I saw where Dallas Cowboys haven't won the NFC championship or the conference championship in 24 years. They've been in the NFC for 24 years. Tom Brady's won it one time. He's been in the league
there you go.
in that conference for one season. Let's take a look at the full slate of games in the first week of the 2021 season. I think it's a great slate here. You start with that Thursday night game, the standalone game, the Cowboys and Bucks to start the season. You take a look at the other games on the Sunday of that week, and then the Monday night game, the very first Monday night game, will be Ravens at Raiders, which I think is another compelling thing because you have Lamar Jackson going to Las Vegas in that matchup. Anything stand out for you as far as the overall games are concerned? You have the Chiefs going against the Browns. I think it's really interesting as well. Obviously, you have Urban Meyer and Trevor Lawrence. Their first game will be at the Texans in a divisional matchup. Anything stand out for you here in week one?
Well, there are a couple other games, like the Browns and the Chiefs. You have two playoff teams last year. The Browns are anticipated this season, really, like more than any season since Bernie Kosar was there. So if they can get off to a good start at Kansas City, that's going to be a great start for them. Obviously, Dolphins and Patriots, to see who's going to be the biggest rival for the Bills. You mentioned Houston and
the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Yeah, Houston and Jaguars, where you have DeAndre Hopkins going back. Because you look at that, they absolutely fell off the table, the Jaguars.
Right.
He was used to Houston last year.
Right.
10-6, 2019, 4-12 last year. Is Deshaun Watson going to play? What's going on with him? And also, like Kyler Murray, too, the second half of the year, they went 2-5, the Cardinals, compared to 6-3. And their running game was down. They had over 169 rushing yards per game those first 9 weeks, and only 100 the last 7 weeks in splitting up. Only 7 touchdowns compared to 15 rushing touchdowns. So as much as Kyler Murray is being depended on, little bit with DeAndre Hopkins not being as good in the second half of the year, helped by their running game. Kenyon Drake really fell off a little bit too.
Right.
So can they do those things better? Those some of the matchups we're going to be looking at. But I think obviously the main one was the Cowboys and the Bucks. But also, like you were telling us before when we were talking Packers and Saints, another great one. Will Aaron Rodgers be there or will he not be there? Jameis Winston getting his chance to play for the Saints. So I think there's a lot of stuff that's going on there.
No doubt. There's also a lot of reunion games, and these will trickle out as far as the weeks that they will play. But you have a lot of different storylines, and including, I think, the top one in week 4, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers go to Foxborough to play the New England Patriots. That's Brady's return to Boston. But then you also see the Arizona Cardinals going to the Houston Texans. That's both DeAndre Hopkins and J.J. Watt now going back into Houston. You see some of the other matchups as well, including the Week 1 game as Sam Darnold will host his former team, the Carolina Panthers. Which reunion game is your favorite? I think most of America is really, really excited to see, obviously, 7-time champion quarterback going back to Boston. But anything interest you here in these reunion games, so to speak?
Well, the one game that I think out of these that really gets my attention is the Lions at the Rams.
Yeah.
People don't realize how bad the Lions' history have been. We were talking about it before. They've only won one playoff game since 1957. Matthew Stafford has the most passing yards in NFL history without a playoff win. So if he can get that finally with the Rams, it'll be very deserved for him. Because Stafford hasn't really been the problem. We're trying to figure out exactly what it is, the problem with the Lions.
Right.
All these coaches come in and they seemingly fail, whether it's Wayne Fontes or whether it's, Matt Patricia. You've seen Morningway. So many guys that have come in, not just done bad, but done really bad. And they're trying to figure it out there. Will they be better with Goff? I don't know. Stafford was really good. Passed for 5,000 yards one year. They haven't won a division title since the mid-'90s, too. So I don't know what they're going to be expected to have with Stafford gone. Stafford, I thought, was a big part of that team. Seeing him go out to L.A., if they win there and he gets a chance to succeed, it'll really be a just reward for him, who's taken a lot of heat in Detroit. So I'm looking forward to that. And the Jets and Panthers, I wish that game was at the Meadowlands because then you can get the full brunt of everything.
Right.
But Darnold, I thought, got thrown under the bus. He did not get a fair shake. They seemingly blamed him for all their mistakes, which hiring Adam Gase was their biggest mistake. Giving him the offense and Darnold doing the best he can under that. I'm excited to see how he does with Carolina. I still think he's going to be pretty good.
Yeah.
He gets out of New York. He gets out of all that pressure. I mean, what kind of pressure you have coming in there? Number one, the Jet fans are not going to let you off easy. Sanchez came in, got to championship games his first 2 years, and they don't really like him. I know his career overall was a failure because after that he didn't do anything.
Right.
So Darnold didn't even get the chance to have the opportunity to have real functional players and a real functional coach. So I hope he does well. And for the Jets, you get to see their new quarterback and everything that they hope and represent. So that's another big game along with the Lions and the Rams.
Exactly. And another one I think is going to be kind of interesting is Cam going back to Carolina. He had so many good years there, won an MVP there, took that team to a Super Bowl as well.
Very underrated.
And if Cam doesn't get the starting job, well, then it's Tua, and so then you have that matchup there with Tua or with Mac Jones and him as well. And so there's another matchup between the Patriots as well and the Dolphins that could be another Mac Jones versus Tua situation.
That's going to be really
there
interesting to see
in Week 1 if we have that. And they also
that'd be great.
Of course, they play twice. Yeah, that would be really entertaining. We'll talk a little bit more about Alabama quarterbacks coming up a little bit later in our program. Before we leave this segment, we want to remind you that the Alabama High School Athletic Association baseball and softball championships can be seen right here live on WOTM coming your way next week. It'll all start next Tuesday. We'll have the 5A and 2A baseball finals. All games Monday through Friday will all start at 10 a.m. right here on WOTM. We will juggle between baseball and softball all day long. You see the classifications when they are scheduled to play. Of course, the softball tournament going on in Oxford, Alabama at Chocolaca Park. Meanwhile, the baseball tournament going on over in Montgomery. So our crews will be spread wide open, covering all the games between Tuesday all the way to Saturday. For a full list, head over to ahsaa.com. You can see all the brackets for both baseball and softball. But keep in mind, all the Game 2s and the, if necessary, Game 3 in baseball will be seen right here on WOTM. We'll, of course, remind you of that periodically throughout our program here. Coming up next here on Overtime, we will talk college baseball and softball. It's a really interesting time of year. Bama's got a huge matchup this week in the SEC. We'll talk about it coming up next.